Where's Dean? It's the premiere of the 5 Stack, and we are waiting for Dean to show up. We hope you can hear us. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the premiere of the 5 Stack with Dean Blundell and myself. Only where is Dean Blundell? The chair is empty. We are waiting for him. This is an auspicious start to a very new show that we're doing here on Narativ and elsewhere. You're watching us on Substack Live. It is so nice to be on Substack Live. I love Substack Live. It is the best platform for live programming like this, and for two reasons. It's live. Anything can happen. Dean cannot show up, and all sorts of things can happen. And we can talk to you at home, and you can send messages to us, and it's live and unscripted and delicious in that very way. And I'm giving Dean enough time to fill in. For those of you who don't know, I'm Shalev. I do Narativ.org, been investigating all sorts of things, including Trump and Epstein for 8 years. I got answers to a lot of questions. And on the top of me here, as it were, is Dean Blundell, Canada's #1 shock jock. Dean, how are you?
Am I the top?
I
feel like I am.
I must be the bottom. I made that choice consciously, by the way. This was not. This is how it begins.
Dude, I'm so excited to do the 5 Stack with you. Brand new. I'm new to Substack. You turned me onto it, and it's been a roller coaster already. We've got tens of thousands of views in a week. It's such an incredible platform. Really happy to be here doing this with you, pal.
It's a great community. I think there's something so exciting about the way everyone's so nice, engaged, turned on, and willing to be supportive and great. Listen, what we want people at home to do is to support this project, because we're going to try this as often as we can, but we can only do it if a lot of people show up. So if you're watching right now, and there's a few of you, and we'll keep building, what we'd love you to do is just restack this thing. Go into your restack module, however you do that. Restack it, make sure all your followers know about the show, and then they can follow Dean and they can follow me. And then in the future, everyone will be aware of when this 5 Stack is going to be on the air. So we're very, very excited about all of that. But there is so much news happening today. And this show, by the way, is intended to count down the top 5 big stories of any given day. That's why it's called the 5 Stack. Yeah. And there's plenty of news to go around today. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of big stories. But there is one particular big story which is impossible to ignore, and it is the story that we're putting at number 5, even though it may even be the biggest of the day. It's all about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files. So this is the story at number 5 on the 5 Stack, and you know a lot about the story, because if you are correct in what you said to me just before you went on the air here, is that you've had a look at what these files actually looks like and what's inside these files. And we should mention that Pam Bondi, I don't know how you'd say it.
Yeah, Bondi. It's good.
Announced this is the Attorney General, of course. I can't believe that, but she's the Attorney General. Wow. She announced in the last couple of hours that they're coming out tomorrow. And the reason they're taking some time is that they're letting all the victims know ahead of the time, and all the people who visited the island ahead of the time, what's happening and why they're being subjected to this really incredible publicity stunt. This is nothing but a way to damage the Democrats by Donald Trump and the Republicans. And you can explain some of that, and I'll explain some of that. I've got some gripping tape that I'm going to play you in a few minutes, and a whole lot of exciting stuff that we can share with you about what exactly is the reason behind we're going through this massive publicity stunt and nothing else tomorrow.
Yeah, that's all it is. And today was the beginning of the publicity stunt. When you do a publicity stunt, you need to drag that shit out. So effectively, Donald Trump and his cabal of fucking morons invited every right-wing, alt-right, crazy conspiracy theorist podcaster like Irina Shayk, the lady from, I think that's her name, from Libs of TikTok, et cetera, to the White House to get their very first copy. And everybody from her to Olivia Hernandez to every single right-wing blogger and fucking derelict idiot grabbed this thing and said the same thing effectively, which was, there's nothing in here. Nothing in here we don't know. There's nothing in here that we can go on. Everything is redacted. This is all stuff that's publicly available. And then Pam Bondi said, wait a second. The real stuff's coming out tomorrow, we think, because the FBI, the deep state, is busy destroying records. Now, if you believe that, I got a fucking bridge to sell you, or an oceanfront property to sell you in Saskatchewan. It's all bullshit. To your point, total publicity stunt. I have seen the document. I have it in my inbox. I'm looking at it right now. And the really, really funny part is it's nothing. Nothing, with the exception of the removal of Donald Trump and any one of his allies who have been rumored to be in there, and the highlighting of every single Democratic opponent who may or may not have been on that flight log, on those documents, may or may not have been to Epstein Island, may or may not have been on the Lolita, which is Jeff Epstein's plane. So effectively what Donald Trump and his administration have done is they've weaponized this document, and they've done it to the point where they've been able to remove certain names, including his, which is in there more than Bill Clinton's name, and they've redacted the rest of it, and they're weaponizing the abuse of hundreds of young women to hurt their political opponents, and that is exactly the point of Donald Trump having Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, or whatever the fucking guy's name is, be the FBI directors, because they get to decide who gets to see what and what that looks like.
You know, this is such an important point, because what's really happening here is a re-victimization of these victims. I mean, you've got a lot of people who were hurt and damaged by what happened on that island and elsewhere, and I'm not in any way defending what happened, but this is them dragging them through this exercise again, re-victimizing their exploitation, their human trafficking, and bringing it all back to life in a way that is unacceptable, because the reason behind that is either to embarrass the Democrats or to cover up for the fact that he screwed up on the Ukraine deal, which is also going to be the big news tomorrow, and he just wants to cover that up. But there's nothing good in what's happening in Trump's release of these Epstein files.
I would go a little further to say it's not just about him trying to embarrass his opponents. It's him trying to get out from underneath what he knows exists, which is his name literally pilfered through the Epstein documents, because he is not only one of his best friends. We know that Jeffrey Epstein, which is redacted, by the way, we know that Jeffrey Epstein picked up a lot of young underage women doing massages at Mar-a-Lago. We know that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were best friends for a long period of time. We know all these things. And so to not see his name in there and to see the redactions was truly a remarkable moment for me, because that's the other purpose of this, not to hurt other people, but to cover up crimes, sexual crimes against underage women, and to then victimize them and weaponize their experiences to look at Donald Trump, or to look at anybody in that universe that's associated with him at this moment, as if they didn't do anything at all, which is absolutely fucking perfect, because that is exactly who he is.
And let's be clear, you say they were close, they were friends. I mean, they were much more than just close friends. He was his wingman. There are entire indictments and statements from victims who say that these were ultimately withdrawn, but ultimately that have testimony around Donald Trump and Epstein abusing a underage girl in the most
13.
horrific, graphic way. Yeah. There is a record of them being in business together. I'm about to reveal something pretty astonishing about their connections to not only Israeli intelligence, but Russian intelligence, KGB and onwards. And so what we're seeing here is an exploitation of the truth. What we're saying, they're taking some of the information about which Epstein was involved in, and they're putting it out. And the reason why there's going to be a lot of Democrats, I should warn everyone, there are going to be Democrats on this list. The reason they're going to be Democrats on this list is the Epstein, Ghislaine, Maxwell operation was about blackmailing Democrats. They were working for the Russians, working for the Israelis in order to stop Bill Clinton from being too close to the Palestinians. And the way they were going to do that way back when was to use the tapes or the photographs of Democrats with underage girls that they were setting up around the world so they could stop that from happening. And some people say even Monica Lewinsky was part of that operation. The embarrassment to Bill Clinton was to stop him from being too easy on the Palestinians and getting to a peace too quickly. The Israelis never wanted that peace. They obviously still don't want that peace. That's why we're seeing the war in Gaza. And what you're having here is a release of that dirty laundry. But that dirty laundry is really all espionage compromat. It's compromat that the Russians were collecting on the Democrats. So anyone who's going to publish that is complicit, in my opinion, in the same bullshit that these espionage agencies, these intelligence agencies have been persecuting on the democracy that is the United States of America. And it's really just important that people take a deep breath and it's hard because you're going to have evidence of Democrats who are well known doing shitty things. But they were caught in a trap in order to destroy the American democracy. And that's why people have to understand what they're seeing. You look at the photographs of Andrew and Virginia Giffrey. She was 17. It's hard to, I'm not excusing any of it. I get it. But, it was a trap. She was set up and he was set up. And that's why I think, and maybe not, maybe we don't know that about Andrew yet. But, if you look at that as one of the girls, you certainly know that. And in fact, all the photographs from the island, these were not like underage to the point where they're like, that's not an argument I could win. I know that.
Well, underage or not, dude. Think about it. Underage or not.
Yeah.
This is a well-known fact that Jeffrey Epstein abused women, and used women and girls, trafficked women and girls around the fucking world for the purposes of honeypotting people on behalf of a couple of different government agencies, whether it was Mossad, whether it was the CIA, whether it was the GRU. We all know it is a foregone conclusion. And so for Trump to be absolved in this, and for that Epstein gun, that cannon, to be pointed directly at everybody else, and it's all bad. Don't get me wrong. All of it is bad. But this was, if you ask me what the top three things that Trump wanted out of a second term, this was one of them. It was to get underneath and get in front of the Epstein files so that he could remove himself and people around him at a cost, and then take that, which is the double-edged sword of what he's doing, and then point that cannon directly at opponents, people who were unfriendly to Israel, people who were unfriendly to Russia, people who were generally unfriendly to the truth. And that's the incredible part. Read an article the other day, Zev, and I wanted to bring this up because Andrew Tate and his brother are currently in Florida.
Unbelievable.
Donald Trump actually pulled them out of Romania, brought them to Florida, and then today in a presser claimed he had no idea what was going on. That was a diplomatic move. Those guys don't get out of there unless they do. So my point is this, is that you cannot trust anything that comes out of that man's mouth. Like absolutely fucking nothing. Two of the worst human traffickers, two of the worst pimps, two of the worst abusers of women were advocated for by Donald Trump and the U.S. administration. They are currently, right now as I talk to you, at Mar-a-Lago.
Shocking.
And they're enjoying a couple of Cosmos. They're probably doing a little ass grab. They're probably being set up with other women for the same purposes. I don't think we understand the benefit of a good honeypot. I'll tell you that.
I don't know. I think I might have encountered one or two in my life. Let me also just say, though, that in Tate's case, these guys are so vile.
Sure.
The way the video out there of what they do to women and the things that they've said to women. And, where was Epstein first apprehended or suspected of doing some shady business with Virginia Giffrey? It was at Mar-a-Lago, at the exact same location that he is now flown the Tate brothers to. And it's the same location that he banned Jeffrey Epstein because he was so offended by what Jeffrey Epstein did, but then really didn't do anything about it. And so the thing is that Mar-a-Lago is a center point now of human trafficking and rapists. And this is all under Donald Trump's, I don't know. Does he realize how ridiculously contradictory that is? Does he understand that supporting the Tate brothers on one day and then the next day releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files like you're some sort of savior, like he's saving the women who are victims? It's so hypocritical and it's so disgusting and it makes no sense in every way possible. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating to me because this is a man who participated in these crimes. And now here he is using them to try and attack his opponents. And it's not going to work. Like everything else he's done in the first month, not going to work. But boy, is it a mess. It's a mess.
Well, let me to answer that question. Let me just bring up something that happened today in the Oval Office, my friend, Zev Shalev. where Donald Trump is entertaining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is the Prime Minister of England. Keir Starmer announced that he was super tight with Canada and there's nothing that he could do to divide us. Donald Trump then said, that's enough. He's like, that's enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was fucking hilarious. He's like, that's enough. And then he moved on to something else. But in the same breath, on the same note,
he does not like Canada. I think it's you, Dean.
Yeah, he doesn't like Canada because we're smarter than him and he knows it. And so what he does is he tries to bully his way into us thinking that, and it'll never fucking happen. Like never. Canada's never going to become the 51st state. No one in Canada. We're way smarter than them. Most of us have university degrees. Most of the United States is just full of fucking hillbillies that don't have a GED. So whatever, it doesn't matter. And Donald Trump's one of them. Fuck him. So bottom line, at the podium, yeah. Donald Trump is asked in the Oval Office. He's like, this reporter said, fucking died laughing. It's like, you just did a mineral deal with Ukraine, which, by the way, let's talk about the sneaky Ukrainians who fucking owned him on that mineral deal.
Oh, my God.
In just a second.
Yeah.
But you just did a mineral deal with Ukraine. You just gave him a whole bunch of weapons. Do you regret calling Vladimir Zelensky a dictator? And you know what he said? He goes, I shit you not. We should get the video. Yeah. He's like, I said that. He's like, I don't remember saying that. And the person's like, you did. And he goes, next question, you over there. Like, it's not dementia, because this is what he's always done, what he's always been, which is I'll tell anybody in any room fucking anything I can to get the best advantage that I can in any conversation. Yeah. I want to talk to the most important people. But more importantly, he doesn't have any convictions whatsoever other than self-interest. So you're seeing that self-interest pivot. You see it in the Epstein files released today, which is like, hey, just take my name out of it, redact everything, and point the fucking gun at Bill Clinton and everybody else. And then you see it on the stump today. He is a valueless, useless fucking moron.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
You're welcome.
I like that. And, I'll talk a little bit more about this deal in a second. So this is actually our number 3 story of the day. So if anyone's keeping count, it's a little hard sometimes because it all falls into
I motored to number 2 and then went to number 3. Sorry.
It's okay. No, number 4 was actually the Tate brothers. Number 4 was the Tate brothers.
Right.
Yes. So we're actually okay. We're actually right on time. You didn't great.
I know, but I should have said 4 and then you go to,
you know what? These graphics, I don't know. I get excited about these things.
So
I like to play television, but it's sort of like,
you know what you are? You're a bit of a graphic artist. That's what you are.
I kind of secretly love it. I can spend hours just designing that 3 to make it look cool. But, and that's also because it's got to look good next to you, Dean. You're such a good looking guy, and you're my top anyhow. So
my bottom. So number 3 is the U.S. Ukraine deal, which we just mentioned.
But let's talk about
me through this. Yeah, please.
Yeah, because there's $500 million, he comes out there, Trump, and he's demanding $500 million, $1 trillion in extortion money from the Ukrainians who've just been through a vicious war for 3 years against the Russians, where, thousands of people have died. And he's demanding this extortion. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And Zelensky he's so smart and so sophisticated. Talk about the art of the deal. He says, okay, we'll have a conversation about this. What does he do in the meantime? He calls the French. Macron flies over to the White House, and Macron says, "Listen, Trump, this is I've got a better deal for Zelensky. I got a much better deal for the minerals. So you're going to be out of any deal unless you sign some sort of weaker deal." And that approach and the one thing, Trump talk about lies. He said in his wind up of this extortion that America's paid more money than anybody else to the Ukrainians, which wasn't true. He was lying. It was the Europeans who had done the bulk of the heavy lift there. And in fact, that was just another big lie that he'd made. And when Macron pointed that out to him in public during another press conference the other day, Trump was really embarrassed, had to walk back a lot of his claims to this 500.
See his face? Did you see his face? It was the best. He's like,
But is he stupid? He must be, because you know this is coming. You know this is coming.
You know what he is? He's that guy in your friend group who you looked at him and you're like, hey, dude, eat this. And there's like, what is it? And it was like, I don't know, but if you'd be a hero if you ate it. And then he ate it and he spit it out and he asked what it was and you told him it was a turd.
Yeah.
That's who Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's in the room. He'll do whatever he can for anybody he can for whatever attention, money, or self-gratification he can. To your point. Yeah, yeah.
And so, that's what he's done. He's ate the turd. He's going to eat the turd tomorrow because he's going to sign this deal with Zelensky at the White House, we're told. He tried to back out of it last night. The White House was saying, we don't think we want him to come anymore. So Macron called Trump and he was like, you can't really back out of this. You've got to show up tomorrow. You've agreed to this deal. Yeah. So tomorrow he's going to be eating turds in front of us all while trying to sell us an Epstein piece of junk. And we shall see what will happen. It'll all be embarrassing. But the deal, by the way, is great for Ukraine. It gives them some economic security. Zelensky is not only a hero because he's fucking fought off, a
superpower with fucking drones from Ukrainian Canadian Tire. Yeah.
Canadian Tire. Yeah. But he's done all that, and he's a master negotiator, and he's schooled the leader of the free world, or so-called free world, and he's taking shit from nobody. And well done to Vladimir Zelensky, and the world thanks him. And especially America thanks him because that was a masterful negotiation. So we're down to the number 2 story, which is number 2.
Number 2.
Okay, let's do it.
What do you got?
2. Oh, let's get rid of number 3 because we did that. Number 2. Oh my gosh, this little piece of video is a gem. Speaking about Donald Trump embarrassing himself.
Oh yeah, watch this. The AI video
to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear.
No more tunnels.
Trump God is finally here. Trump God is shining bright.
Oh my gosh.
Future, a brand new life.
There you are.
Taste and dance, the
There
day
he is.
is done. Trump Gaza number 1.
Trump Gaza number 1.
Bright. Golden future, a brand new life.
There you go.
Feast and dance, the deal is done.
It's a
Trump
shot,
Gaza number 1.
That's a video that Donald Trump put out on Truth Social, which was roundly, soundly mocked, of an AI video of what Gaza will look like when Donald Trump gets to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East, if you can. It was if you're one of the people in Gaza, right, and you've got a cell phone and you've just been bombed into oblivion and lost 12 family members, and you look at that video that Donald Trump put out, Donald Trump endorsed it.
Yeah,
right?
no, that was his take on what's happening. This is his promotional video for the future of Gaza after the rockets, after the murder of 35,000 people, 35,000 children.
Yeah.
After
58,000 people. Yeah.
We'll be so much better because
you can get a golden statue of Donald Trump in the middle of Gaza's main street, beachfront property, nice hotels. Literally at the start of the video, you saw a young Palestinian child running for his fucking life. At the end of the video, you've got a picture of Donald Trump in a golden statue in the middle of the street with palm trees around it, and him and Netanyahu on the beach having a couple of cocktails.
Yeah.
If I'm a Palestinian that's been through the last year and a half, and by the way, I'm a proud supporter of Jewish Canadians. I'm a proud supporter of Israel's right to exist. Very, very, very proud. But if I'm a Palestinian today, I'm finding a way to stow away on an airplane just so I can get to the United States, so I can find this prick and anybody associated with him and do my very fucking worst to the man. That was mocking the genocide of thousands and the ethnic cleansing that he wants to do in Gaza. Not what's been done to the people of Gaza, but what he's doing is promoting ethnic cleansing, because a couple of weeks ago, he's like, that's mine. U.S. authority. Yeah. I'm going to take it, going to turn it into my area. It's my town. I'm going to build some hotels, and we're just going to move those people to nice houses with running water. It's going to be lovely. That's called ethnic cleansing.
It's theft of a country. It's not doable. It's stupid. It is not how things are done. People don't get gifted countries by other world leaders because they have committed genocide. I mean, this is not the way the world has ever run. It should never run like this, of course. But if these guys think that this is going to last into the future, they're out of their minds. I mean, there's no way that, the way Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump and Mohammed bin Salman and Vladimir Putin and Xi are expecting the world to operate in the future is not feasible. I mean, unless, I don't know. I don't know what you have to do to make it happen. It's not going to happen. And this golden statue is reminiscent of Saddam Hussein's golden statue, which was pulled down in a revolution in Iraq, in Baghdad, just a few short years ago. And maybe the golden statue that is of Donald Trump will also find its way to the floor pulled down by, angry people, because this is nonsense. This is just not,
It's ridiculousness. Yeah. It's performative ridiculousness. And by the way, do you never notice that everything that he puts out that has a statue of him looks remarkably different than him? Like thin, in shape, good looking, doesn't have that fucked up crazy turkey neck that an old guy like him does, right? Like it's his hair looks like it's not a weave. Right.
When I think about his golden showers, when I see his golden statues, I'm like, that is all I can remember is that ridiculous, event at the hotel. But yeah, he looks nothing like him, but that's still Trump. And I mean, why would you put this out without any, self-conscious awareness of yourself?
Because he has none of those things.
Yeah.
He is not a self-conscious individual. Self-awareness is not a strong suit for Donald Trump or any maggot for that matter, Zev.
Oh, no, that's very, very true. We should do one last story before leaving today, because
number one
is actually there's a really serious thing happening. There's a constitutional crisis in the works. As you may know, this man, Elon Musk, he's busy making sure that the U.S. government is completely malfunctioning by canceling department after department, including the Department for Preventing Ebola from happening, and the cancellation of a flu meeting for the annual flu vaccine. And what else happened that I thought was really, was Ebola? There was one other. But anyhow, he's busy wrecking things. And in wrecking the U.S. aid.
Hold it. Let me back you up. Not only did he ruin U.S. aid, not only did he, quote, make a mistake when he canceled the Ebola prevention program, which is fucking, I don't know how you do that. But he also put out a tweet today that's like, okay, we may have fired too many air traffic controllers. Planes are falling out of the skies. If you have retired as an air traffic controller, call me. I've got a job for you. He literally put that tweet out today, dude. Like that.
Well, he's also suggested that he wants Starlink, his own company, to take over the instead of Verizon, which hasn't even started their
well, dude, the FAA canceled their $2.4 billion contract with Verizon, said they're going to negotiate exclusively with Starlink today, quote, because they had to. Dude, he's taking over everything, and this was the plan.
Yeah, I mean, the State Department's in for $400 million of these ridiculous Tesla's Cybertrucks, and now the FAA is in for this buying of these Starlink devices to control our flight systems. I mean, I don't trust him with anything, never mind deciding which flights we should have running. I lost you. Oh, why did I lose you, Dean? Anyhow, I will say this is the number one story on the 5 Stack today. Dean may show up or may not show up. And the problem is, the why it's the number one story, I should quickly say, is he has canceled. There he is. Dean's back. He has canceled. Now I'm your top.
So close. It was so close. Sorry about that. I dropped out.
No problem. So why there's a constitutional crisis is a judge said you can't cancel those USAID contracts. You have to go back and give the money back to people. It's too soon. You've got to be better at this stuff. Basically the lawyers for the USAID said, we're not sure we can do that. In other words, the powers that be are not listening to the courts. This is the very definition of a constitutional crisis, and we are stepping into it. The Trump administration has no interest in listening to what the court has to say and is not going to obey what the court has to say. Hence, a constitutional crisis on top of a government shutdown, on top of a crisis, on top of another crisis, on top of chaos. And here we are. It's not even 2 months yet of this Trump administration.
And this is the thing. Like, I don't know if you watched this week when Donald Trump was like, okay, we're putting out an executive order. Executive order says I get to decide what the law is from now on. Myself and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who's effectively a sex doll with a law degree. And he's like, I'm going to put out whatever I want. That'll be the law. Fuck the Supreme Court. There is a rumor going around that John Roberts, the head of the Supreme Court, was like, that's interesting, because this has been decided since 1803 that we are the law. Yeah. And you can say what you want about Clarence Thompson and Alito and Kavanaugh and every single Trumpite that's on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But I can tell you something. They all have egos. And every single one of them got together this week and they're like, this won't stand, will it? And they're like, no, fuck, he's screwed. Like, it's just, he does what he does because he's from the Roy Cohn school of drag it out, take as much as you can until you get stopped. And that's what the constitutional crisis is. And I can tell you something. If there's one thing I know about the U.S. Supreme Court, specifically guys like John Roberts, specifically people that were there prior to this dickhead becoming the president again, number 47 for the second time in 10 years, it's that they take their reputation far more seriously than that asshole does. So it'll be a constitutional crisis until it gets to them. And then they're going to say, no, as a matter of fact, you can't do this to the country. The problem that I have is that Donald Trump's actually pretty smart when it comes to abusing the legal system. Just like he dragged out every single one of his trials over the past 4 years so he could outrun the clock and become the next president of the United States. He will try to do the same thing and continue to do as much damage as he possibly can.
You know, I wish I was as positive about the outlook here. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to stop him. I think they're also compromised that they can't stop him. And they've already given him complete immunity from breaking the law. And he's, going to just keep breaking the law. I think the only way this stops is, people power. At the end of the day, this does not stop because anyone is going to come up and show up for us. NATO is not going to show up for us. Maybe they will, but I don't think so. The Supreme Court's not going to be there when we need them. At the end of the day, it's going to require a lot of people just saying, you're out of your mind and you can't drag this country into the pit in the way you're doing it. Because, look at him. He's just got complete abandonment. He's abandoned any common sense. He's completely ignored the law. He's got this billionaire buddy who's busy siphoning off every bit of data America has. He's canceling people's jobs left, right, and center. He's not succeeding in any of his grand promises on the world stage. He's embarrassing himself in front of every world leader. He's destroying NATO. He wants to go after AUKUS. Doesn't even know what AUKUS is. I mean, this guy has no...
Did you see that today?
Yeah,
how do you feel about working with AUKUS? And he's like, I don't even know what that is. What are you talking about? It's like the Australian, New Zealand, U.S., security alignment.
Yeah, the thing that's going to save the
never
world.
Heard of it. Never heard of it.
Against China, which is his big foe, apparently. Never even heard of it. And, and this embarrassment is just causing so much damage, and and then the government's going to shut down in a few days. And, that's where we're at. And it's probably never going to reopen until he's gone, because he doesn't want Congress there. He doesn't want Congress telling him anything. So he'll just shut down the executive and let people suffer. And then, if there's flus and bird flus and Ebola, or whatever else, take your choice. It may hit us. So, I'm not advocating for anything here, but I think that's the way this thing ends. So.
You have to say that so the Secret Service doesn't come to your house. You're like, I'm not advocating for anything, but people need to rise up, everybody.
I would never do anything like that. I'm not that kind of guy. But I will say that, having witnessed this thing around the world, seen these patterns elsewhere, there's so many outcomes. There's just so many outcomes that can happen. And, I would hope everything's completely nonviolent and fits into the democratic.
I would too, but I'm also a big fan of Schadenfreude. So, shit happens is what I'm saying.
Well, that's what you're saying. I wouldn't dare say something like that, but that's just me.
Shit happens. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for our initial 5-stack. This was a smashing success. Thank you very much for having me.
I loved it. Thank you very much for being here. It's Dean Blundell on Twitter that everyone needs to follow. It's @It's Dean Blundell. And it's also Dean Blundell on Substack, newly to Substack. So, you turned me onto it.
I love it. I've got like hundreds of followers in the first couple of days. It was crazy. I just put my shit up there, did my best, and it finds your community. It finds your people. And I've only been shit talked once, which is really nice. I haven't been called a Nazi sympathizer yet. Really,
there's a lot more coming to you because you're such a gem of a human being and a great broadcaster. And it's always lovely to have you on. Thank you for being here on the inaugural live edition of the 5-Stack. And we'll do this again. Maybe as soon as early next week. Who knows? We'll see it.
Anytime.
All right.
Anytime.
Have a good one.